Hello everyone, this is Up to Snuff, and today we have Tomo-chan Is a Girl. I have a lot to talk about, so let's get into this. So as for expectations going into it, it was mixed. I see the image that the series gives me before the series even starts, and, it looked pretty generic, nothing that special. But obviously looking into what the show actually was about, I was like, that's possibly something I could get myself into, at least for a few episodes, see how it goes. It started off slow, but it did ramp itself up quite nicely. Now let's talk about the actual main characters. We have Tomo Aizawa and Junichiro Kuboto. They are all right characters. I definitely like Tomo a lot more. She has a much livelier personality. And when the show was much slower, she really kept things afloat. Now, the guy's not necessarily that bad, but he doesn't have that much of a personality, or at the very least, it's not shown all that much, and that could possibly take away from people being that interested or enthralled in him as a character. Now, to the plot, they don't do much for a lot of the time. The whole point of the show is for them to get together. Now, they've been friends for a long time. Tomo is a lot more tomgirlish, and Junichiro used to be very nerdy, but he became a much more buff person, working out very hard, kind of to match Tomo as a friend. They've gotten very far in their relationship. And halfway through the series, we get introduced to many interesting characters, like Carol, which is probably my favorite character out of all the others. Now, she doesn't have much of a brain, and I'm sure everyone else thought the same thing. But you know what? She's smart enough to continue the plot, to keep it going, and she had a very important episode with Kosuke, her cousin, I think. Still, they really like each other. It was a romantic episode, and it basically told the viewer that the show can be serious about romance. Now, this was a chain reaction for good episodes. We started to get a lot more plot, a lot more development. I wouldn't say plot, a lot more development. Their dynamic really is great. The only problem that I have is that they're not sure of their own feelings/relationship together. And it takes so long for them to be confident. Now, when they're confident, and it is romantic feelings, and they change that dynamic, which is in the second to last and last episode, that's great. That's what a lot of people probably want. But are they comfortable with it? And obviously that's a question that, you need answered properly in order to go anywhere as a series. The last episode was very romantic. If you watched it, it's so cute. There's a lot to it, and a lot you're waiting hand and foot for. It did everything that you could have asked for. It's not that often that a series is actually going to put their best foot forward and make it actually romantic and actually have them together in the end. Now, I don't want the entire plot to be them realizing their connection towards one another, because I feel like it's way too simple. There needs to be more than that. And plus, there should be a lot more content than just that for, more than half the series. But unfortunately, that kind of was how it turned out. Only 1 or 2 episodes had serious character growth and intriguing perspectives or narratives. It was stuff like that that really brought it down, at least in the first place. I mean, the ratings were much lower in the beginning than they were towards the end. My view, of course, changed with the character growth. I see character growth. I like the show more. It's just how it is. I mean, there's a lot of likable characters. I didn't want to say just Carol. I mean, Misuzu was nice, but she didn't really add all that much to the series. I feel like in the end, it really was Junichiro and Tomo who worked on their own relationship together. Yes, Misuzu helped with episodic moments, but not necessarily in the entirety of their relationship. Now, the characters had a good amount of backstory. I understand it, but it should have been just compact. It should have been one episode that they really tried to hone in on that, but they kept on going to the backstory for some reason. They kept on looking back. Personally, I'm not a big fan of just looking back. They should have kept their eyes on the present or future. And I think this series could have gotten done with in 12 episodes, definitely cutting out on the beginning parts, could possibly even been done in 10 episodes. I think the entirety of what the series wanted to accomplish, I think that was good. How long it took possibly could have been shorter. Of course, no one's going to really get mad at the content if you like it. But, I like things at least a little bit more compact, get things a little bit faster to the point, if you will. But that's just me. Now, as for the final rating, it's hard to say because, while this was average in some regards, it did push past in a few others, like the actual romantic end and how they dealt with it. I think the characters, even if you have a character as fluffy as Carol, if you will, she had a lot to her. She wasn't just some smiley face girl with a bunch of rainbows and money around her, She had a lot of smarts. She knew what she was doing. She understood the dynamic and how she needed to maintain that by talking with other characters. So it's stuff like that that kind of keep this out of just being a C. I'm going to actually give this one a C+. I think right now people are kind of getting a little too excited, and it's at a 78 mean score. That's really great, but I think it's a little higher than it needs to be. Hopefully it kind of simmers down, because I get it. It's just after the series concluded, and people were very happy about the ending. I'm going to give this a C+. That's not bad. It's slightly above average, and I'll see you next time.